What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to, yes, another episode of the Mental Corner podcast, the show where I bring on guests from all different backgrounds to talk all the things mental health. I'm your host, Harry Potvin, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Joey Tomaselli. Joey is the author of the book Push Forward, which is a story based on his real life dealing with OCD, addiction, anxiety, depression, and phobias. Joey was so much fun to talk to, and I want to thank him again for coming on and having this discussion with me. Now, you guys all know the drill at this point. If you're listening, please like, comment, share, subscribe, give 5 stars if you're on that podcast platform. Share with someone who might want to hear this episode. It's a really great one, and I can't wait for you to listen. I don't know if you can tell by my cheeks right now, but I have been enjoying this weather so much up in Canada. So I hope if you're listening, you're getting beautiful weather as well, and I hope you're taking full advantage of it. I'll talk to y'all very soon. Have a great rest of your day. Peace. Joey, we are live. Thank you so much for joining me today, man.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So before we get too deep into anything, I wanted to get to know you a little bit better. So
Okay.
where did your journey with mental health kind of start?
I think for me, it started as probably in grade one. I remember having anxiety for simple things. And at that time in my life, it wasn't simple. It's just doing a journal. And my teacher, like, go home, write a journal. And I would stare at that paper. And as simple as that may have been for someone like yourself, I struggled and I had such bad anxiety. So I would say it started at 6. And then 13 years old, I developed a bad case of OCD. Like, it was just overwhelmed me, and thank God I had soccer where I got a little bit of a release from it, but that's when it got really bad. It was at 13, 14, then I discovered weed, and then I self-medicated myself with weed, and then as it prolonged going forward, I started doing more drugs. But even though I was at a high level at soccer, it's like I needed those drugs to help me cope with my bad OCD. And then pretty much for 14 years, it went away because I was smoking every day and doing drugs. And about 28 years old, I had an episode where I just had a bad panic attack, and I went on a 4-year journey that I don't wish on my worst enemy. Pretty much, it was a terrible time in my life, but I did a book, obviously, called Push Forward about it, because I want to spread the message that there is hope. And everyone's different, right? You're different from me. So I'm not here to say I'm a doctor, you need to take medication. All
Hmm.
I'm telling the world is this is my story. We all have our story, but this worked for me. And it's up to you at the end of the day what you think is right for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I like to say that a lot too, because like people who listen, I'm like, listen, I'm not a professional
Me
by
neither. I'm not
any
even,
capacity.
no chance.
Yeah, you've gone through it.
I barely got out of high school. So for me, it was like, this is just my story. And at the end of the day, I did it for, like, thank God I had a great family support. And
Hmm.
it's almost, I feel bad saying I'm doing this for people that don't have that, that are
Hmm.
by themselves, and they don't have anywhere to turn, and like I said, I say it so many times, I promised myself if I ever got better, I'm going to do something to give back. And this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat in that respect, where I had a great family, I had a great friend, system. Things just weren't working up here,
I
Um,
just can't explain it.
yeah, it's hard too, and I'm sure you get this where like you have these things going for you. Like you had soccer, I had swimming.
Yeah.
Like you had a good family. Like I was doing decent in school, not great. Like once I got to uni, it was kind of questionable. But
Yeah.
um, from the outside looking in, it's like you have everything. So
Oh,
why you can't feel like that?
to other people you look like, oh, what's wrong with you? And again, coming from an old school Italian family, my father, hard worker, I love him to death, but like, he didn't understand what
Mm,
OCD was. What do you mean you need to wash your hands? He was a mechanic, he came home dirty, he didn't understand, like, why was I always cleaning, and he couldn't put it together. And I never blamed him for that, because he grew up in a different time where that never happened. So it's so true what you're saying. That's why on the cover of my book, I made it very clear how I wanted it was half of my face is sad, half of my face is happy. because you never know when looking at someone, whether they have money or not, what they're going through on the inside. And
Mm.
that's the message I wanted to put out there.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. It's so easy to judge people or kind of put
Very,
like or like make a story about them in your head without knowing
absolutely.
anything about them.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Agree.
let's go back a little bit. So when you were in grade 1 and you were experiencing this anxiety and then you started experiencing OCD, when you were that young, did you know what it was or did you just
I
feel
had
like you were
I
different?
had no idea what was going on. Like
Mhm.
the anxiety gave me like almost felt like a knife was in my stomach. I remember
Yeah.
that clearly when I was 6. The OCD, it was one incident where I was at my sister's birthday and someone said to me, for some reason, it was stupid of me. There was a bag of chips on the floor and I ate a chip out of the bag and I heard one person in the background said, "Oh my God, you're going to get AIDS now." As silly as that sounds,
Yeah.
there's no physical contact. And it was around the time Michael Magic Johnson came out that he had AIDS.
Mm.
For some reason, something switched, and it just attacked my soul. Like I can't explain it any better than that. And it was for 2 years where, again, I was lucky that I wouldn't say I was pretty popular in my school, thank God, because if I wasn't, I would have got bullied for the way I kept my hands up. I had to wash all the time. I was allowed to go to the bathroom. Like teacher understood, oh, there he goes again. He has to go wash his hands. But it could have been really bad if, say, I was just a loner and I was by myself. I could have got turned on very easily. But I didn't care. When you have bad OCD, it's the drug is to wash yourself, clean yourself, organize stuff. And again, it was terrible at that age, especially at 13 years old.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what started.
Yeah, and then you hear people now who kind of and this is kind of my like it bugs me a little and I had someone come on a little earlier in the year talking about this, but when you not romanticize the words, but when you kind of throw around terms too loosely, like with OCD, it's like you want it's like a minor thing where you're like, "Oh, I like the dishes cleaned. I'm just OCD about it." Like saying
Yeah.
things lightly like that when you don't understand how
Uh,
draining it actually
it,
is.
it, 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 I explain it to people. OCD is almost like going to the gym and it's doing cardio because it is draining.
Mhm.
Like it got, when I had it 13 and then thank God, I started doing drugs. I don't want to thank God for that, but it stopped it. Like I
Mhm.
basically self-medicated myself. So for 14 years it was gone. But when it came back at 28 years old and it felt like I was 13 all over again, it came back with a vengeance and it literally consumed my life. Like it was, I had phobias, I had depression, I had anxiety. And then again, I'm going a little bit too detailed, but like I also needed major neck surgery that professionals were missing. So I had physical pain. So I was thrown 5 things my way that I had to deal with without getting any answers. But one of the phobias I had, it's funny because when you have OCD, and I studied it a lot. Again, I'm not a professor about it. I'm not trying to tell people I know everything, but you develop phobias as you go along when you have bad anxiety and depression. And for one stupid reason, all of a sudden anything red was blood to me. So I was throwing out shoes, and now I'm 28 years old, going to a girl's house, no shoes on. I had no laces on my shoes. I didn't want none of my laces to touch the floor. And then they were like contaminated. I couldn't touch them. So I laugh about it now, but like
Mhm.
those 4 years, like my back of my trunk looked like an Aldo shoe store. Just I didn't have any shoes in the boxes because I threw everything out.
Mhm.
So it was a rough time for sure.
Man, that yeah. If was there like a specific moment after those 4 years of, suppressing your stuff with weed? Was there a moment where you kind of remember was there a moment that you kind of remember, sorry, where it kind of just broke out?
I think I needed, thank God this happened to me again. I needed a big scare. It was one night, I was 28 years old, smoking a joint, which I always do, and I had a big panic attack.
Mhm.
And that was April 16th, 2009. And I haven't done drugs since. But I was grateful for that. But after that, that's when the 4 years started where I had the problems. But then I didn't have my vice to take care of all this problems because I was afraid of drugs. So then I was on my own. Then I went to go see multiple therapists, and I went through 24 professionals to finally figure out what was the problem. And I got my life back, but it was a long 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. When
Yeah.
when you sorry, go for it.
No, I was saying that sometimes people they turn to drugs when they're suffering like that. And again, I'm not a doctor, but I think drugs is the last thing you need. I really like cognitive behavioral therapy. I think that helps me a lot. Again, I'm not telling people you need to go here, you need to it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I wouldn't tell someone don't take medication. Like someone who's suffering might need it. I'm not sure. I'm not that person, right? But I really think that for me, that cognitive behavioral therapy got rid of OCD. Never leaves somebody once you have it. But if you could take it down from 85% to 27%, I'm just throwing these weird numbers. That's it's a good start.
It's like going from a full on sprint to like a light cardio
Yeah,
jog.
like valet jog, and they go
Mm-hmm.
get your car for you, a nice little jog, and I'm okay with that. Like I still have it, and I tell people like anxiety is with all of us. Like I remember I was like, well, I don't want it. We're all gonna get it, whether you lose your job, whether a relationship doesn't work out. You're always gonna have that sense of something coming on, but like you have to learn how to cope with it, and that's what I found after 4 years. And I finally meshed with a therapist, and I tell this to everyone too. Like a therapist is like a mechanic. Like you could go through 7 mechanics before you find someone that actually really is trustworthy and works on your car the right way. And that's how I feel about therapists. Like I went through 7 before I found someone. I'm like, okay, we click, I trust you, and let's do this.
You know what's crazy? I went through 7 as well. Like my seventh therapist was the one where I was like, I like you. This is
Yes,
gonna
you're
work.
the chosen one, and I'm all in. What do
Yeah.
I got to do?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Was when you were looking at all these therapists, because for me, the thing that kind of turned me off from each of the first six, well, the first one was a horrible experience, and I talk
Oh,
about it at
terrible.
nauseum. Yeah, it's always terrible.
Yeah,
Um, but the other five before the one I found, the reason I didn't want to go to them anymore was they either were like they liked hearing themselves too much. They liked hearing the sound of
yeah,
their voice,
yeah.
and they were like talking slow and passionate. And I was like, man, I want to die. Like, I don't know why you're doing this. Or
It's
they
pain.
were like, what's that?
It's almost painful. It
Oh,
hurts more than the reason why you're going in for.
exactly. And the other thing was like every time I went in, every like the first six times, each one of them said, all right, what are you going through? I was like, do you not have me on file, man? Like, I have to retell this story again?
All the time. It's almost like they're just trying to complete the hour. And again, not all therapists are like this. I'm not
No.
attacking anybody. I had therapists tell me you're fucked up. Excuse my language. They would tell
Yeah.
me that I need to go away for 2 years. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I had other therapists that just would just do things that I would sit there and I'd be defeated because it's costing you money at the same time, right? And it's
Hmm.
money I didn't have back then. And it's very you're defeated when you know it's not working. Like the one therapist I found, it was a cognitive behavioral therapist. His name was Dr. Neil Rector. He was amazing. And again, he didn't know that I needed major neck surgery, but he told me in my face the first time I met him, he's like, listen, I'm going to do 8 sessions with you and that's it. And I was like, wow, I've never heard this before, like a different approach, right? He didn't want to keep me there for 2 years or 3 years because at the end, they make money when you're there for a long time, and I get it. That's their professional. They train hard to be that. But he was like at the end of my 8 sessions, and he helped me so much with my OCD, and he put me in situations, and I had to do homework. It became a course, and the subject was myself.
Hmm.
And I loved him putting me in situations like it was little things like if there was a red string on the floor on my shirt, it was blood. Even though I know that's a red string, that was blood. He would bring me around the building, like he took me outside of his office and being like, "What bothers you? Show me, and let's talk it out." And I
Hmm.
found that helped me a lot. And when we completed the 8 sessions, he's like, "Listen, Joey, I think you're an amazing person. I think your anxiety is not the problem. I think something physically is wrong with you." And at that time, I didn't know I needed major neck surgery. But when he said it to me, it brought me on my journey to find out, okay, something's wrong with me physically because I believed in him. He helped me. I got better, but why am I feeling awful still on the inside?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's
so
beautiful, man.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think the important thing, like if a listener is listening, I think the important thing when you're looking at therapy or you're looking at all these different techniques, you got to approach it the same way you approach anything. There's always going to be some bad apples in a group.
100%. It's like choosing friends. You after a couple of times hanging out with them, you're gonna know if you want to stay around them or not. So I
Hmm.
feel the same way at therapists. If you don't click with somebody, there's nothing wrong with starting all over with someone else.
Yeah. It's definitely hard, man. Like the first 6 times, I like the thoughts were coming in like, am I just not going to click with anyone? Like, I've
Yeah,
I've heard
feel
people
that.
say yeah, like I heard people say therapy works, therapy's great, and here I am the sixth time around, I'm like nothing has helped me.
No, I've been there. I've been there 6 times. You're defeated, and you're spending money. So, and again, my dad was at. He means well. He has my back, but he's, you're spending all this money. Like, what are you doing? And
Mhm.
I'm spending thousands. Like, and I'm not working because I can't stay in. I went from socializing, going to nightclubs, partying. All of a sudden, I'm confined to my parents' basement for 4 years, and it was a reality check that people were like, "Oh, did you hear Joey? I think he went crazy." And I wasn't crazy. Something was going on in my body, my mind that I had to overcome. So yeah, going back to your point, you go to 3, 4 therapists, you start thinking maybe I am crazy. Like if they can't help me, they're professionals. Maybe there's something wrong with me.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And if you're a listener and you hear that, it's not you. You just
It's
haven't
not.
found the right one.
No, you just haven't found the right one, and that's why my book is called Push Forward. I'm not trying to plug my book out, but that word to me, you have to push forward. You have one life. Your life's important. So whoever's listening, your life is very important. You can't give up, and you just gotta. It's like a puzzle. If it doesn't fit, look for another piece that fits.
Yep.
Pretty plain and simple as that.
Exactly. So, what did you need neck surgery for?
Well, basically, so I up to 2009, I started feeling off, and basically I needed a C1 fusion. So I had my vertebrae was hanging by a thread,
Mm.
my skull for 4 years. So they did an MRI. It showed that I needed major surgery, but two neurologists missed it. And again, I'm not here to attack these two neurologists. That's not why I'm telling my story. But for 4 years, I was hanging by a thread. So my vertebrae was hanging from my skull, and it showed in my MRI, but they missed it. So not only did I have to battle with anxiety, depression, OCD, and phobia, I had physical pain from not getting the surgery. It
Mhm.
makes you feel like almost like you can't see and you're off balance, but it keeps your body centered. Your vertebrae connects to your skull. If that's hanging, you're you're not all there. So I
Yeah.
had that on top of everything else. So when I found out that I needed surgery, I was like, thank God. I was scared. But I'm like, wow, I really thought maybe this is what I'm supposed to be, and I am going crazy. So I found a new family doctor because my old family doctor, like, I don't blame him, but he was tired of seeing me walking in 3, 4 times a week. Something's wrong. I feel off. Why am I dizzy? And he prescribed me Prozac. And again, I'm not telling people take Prozac or don't. It didn't mesh well with me, and I needed to find answers on my own. Found a neurosurgeon at St. Michael's, Dr. Howard Ginsburg. He saved my life. And I actually have the MRI CD here in my cupboard. I keep it with me. It was done in November 13th, 2009. It showed on that CD that I needed major neck surgery.
Mhm.
And I kept it on me for 4 years before I met the neurosurgeon. And he's like, when I sat down, he's like, well, okay, well, we're going to have to do an MRI. And I said, well, I got the CD right here. Do you want to look at it? He's like, wow, you kept this on you for 4 years? I'm like, yeah, I put it inside his computer. And I remember him looking at it and just swearing under his breath because he saw something here. Went to
Mm.
do a little x-ray, came back, and he's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but you've been hanging, your vertebrae's been hanging by a thread. I don't know how you haven't died. We need major neck surgery, but I got to be honest with you. You have a 50% chance of dying or getting paralyzed during the surgery because when your vertebrae's hanging, that you make one wrong move, the person doesn't stand a chance. Plus all the nerves that go around your vertebrae. Like I learned all. I sound like I'm on my doctor show here, Dr. Oz, but I'm not. I learned so much about it, and I took that chance because I couldn't live going forward. And I tried to take my life twice because I had too much going against me. I had physical OCD, depression, anxiety, and I'm thinking I'm 28, and then people would see me. Wow, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you must feel great. And I'm like, no, I've never felt worse.
Mm-hmm.
So the surgery was a big part of me getting back on track for sure, but I still had to deal with my other issues, and I really felt cognitive behavioral therapy. I loved it. Like, and whenever someone talks to me about it, I give them advice and I tell them who to go to. And again, it's up to them to go,
Yeah.
like, or what works for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you were doing all of this like cognitive behavioral therapy and what trying things that worked, when did you start to notice that change in your mental?
I think, see, again, this was before I needed surgery, but like when he was putting me through homework and what bothered me, after 4 sessions of putting me on the spot, like making me touch something that's red on a piece of paper, and then talking me through it, I noticed a good change about 4 or 5 sessions in. Again, when you trust a therapist and you're all in, you're going to see results. And if the therapist is really good at what they do, after 5, 6 sessions, again, I'm not saying 5, 6 sessions going to cure everybody, but for me, I saw a change after 5 or 6 sessions where I start looking at, wow, that's pretty silly that a red string is making me throw out my shirt, my
Mm,
clothes, my shoes. And I really sat back and it was like, this is not normal. And, and before I was like, no, I got to clean, clean, clean. I didn't care how I looked.
yeah.
So I was running out of shoes, basically, like running out of running shoes. I would go somewhere, step on something that looked like blood, take off my shoes in a parking lot, and drive home with no shoes on. It
Mm,
was getting to, and as silly as that sounds now, back then it was everything to me.
right. Yeah, it seems a lot less intense when you look back at it.
Oh yeah, I laugh about it now. It's to me,
Yeah,
it's funny now. It wasn't funny when I was going through it, for sure.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's always a conversation a topic of conversation not just on this show but like when I'm out, talking to people because, especially with the society we're in right now, everyone wants a quick fix. And I
Oh,
remember yeah, like
absolutely.
like when I went to the seventh therapist, that second session I went in, she was like, "Okay, what do you want from me?" And I was like, "I don't care if it's a happy pill. I don't care if it's magic. I want you to fix me." She's like, "It's not that
100%.
easy. It's not that easy. Like you want that, but it's not going to be that simple." So, it's important to remember that, and it's important to remember that, after a couple months, like you might notice some small changes. You just got to keep at it. It's like if you have a stomach, like, I've put on a couple pounds since the pandemic,
We all have.
started. We all
Yeah.
have,
It's
right?
not,
And
Uber
you know,
Eats is the devil, for sure.
oh, Uber Eats, easy access.
It's too easy.
But like, if you want that six pack, and I've made this analogy before, like earlier,
You have
like
to
when I
train.
started, you have to train. You have to do like core
Yeah,
work every single day. You have to stay consistent, and it's the same with your mind. Your brain is still a muscle, man.
absolutely. And you hit you definitely are talking facts. And I tell people, if you're willing to work on your body, you should work on your mind, because that muscle is just as important as the rest of your body, right? So, and seeing that right person, man, it doesn't feel good once you're like, wow, this is the person I'm supposed to be talking to. And I could imagine how you felt after 6 people, because I went through it too. It's you're just defeated, and you're like, oh, you're getting paid to do this, help me. And I remember thinking, I wish I broke my back, because at least it's physical pain, and then it would go away. And it was like, I just don't like the way I feel, and I hate it. I don't know if you were the same way, but I hated telling my story to people,
Hmm.
because it's almost like, wow, you're still feeling like this. But God bless the ones that were listening all the time, because I wouldn't be here.
Yep, yep. I feel that completely. Another thing that kind of pushed me back was like the idea that, oh, you have everything going for you.
Oh, I heard that many times. Or I don't know if you had this. I had friends I grew up with for 30 years saying, well, me and the guys feel you should be all right by now. It's been 6 months. And I learned after 4 years, I took a course at Landmark where you have to forgive the people that don't know what you're really going through.
Mm,
And I kept that anger inside me for 4 years. Like, how could you just brush me off? I'm struggling here. But I forgive them. And whether I stayed friends with them or not, it's just releasing that forgiveness because they're not inside you. They don't know what's going through your mind. You can't expect them to be compassionate for all 4 years or how long you're suffering. It's very important to let go of people that don't understand what you're going through, and not let go of them, but let go of that feeling of feeling worse than you already feel. And I really preach that. Like, you got to just work on yourself. And when it comes time, you have that talk with them. And if they don't understand, then they shouldn't be in your life.
hmm. Yeah. You don't need that added weight.
An added weight is terrible. It is just, you're drowning and someone throws you a big stone. Hold on to that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, give me the rope as well. Like, it's too much.
Yeah, exactly. So when you um when was like the first time you opened up about this stuff to your family and friends?
Well, see, with me, when I had that big panic attack, I was living on my own, single, living the life downtown, and I had that, and I drove home at 2:30 in the morning. So my mom and dad knew right away what the hell happened to this guy. So there was not a coming out moment. I'm struggling. My story's different. I came in like flying. I was like, something's wrong. I don't know. So I kind of shocked them with it. It wasn't like a gradual thing. It was like I came in hot. And
Mm.
my dad was like, "What drugs did you?" Like, he thought I was on heroin. He didn't understand. What did you take? But it's almost, for me, it's different. It was a blessing that the drugs scared me at the point where I didn't want to do them anymore, because else I'd be a real mess right now. And at that point, I was telling anyone who wanted to listen what was wrong with me, because I couldn't figure out, why am I feeling like this? I don't feel right. I'm dizzy. And I was telling everybody, and people felt compassionate about it for a little bit. But then after, some people are like, "Hey, Joey, I don't want to hear about this anymore. You're bringing me down."
Yep.
And it sucks, because I went from partying, going away on vacation, to being stuck in my parents' basement. I'm like, I'm 30 years old. What happened? And you get in a dark place where you don't think you're going to see the light anymore. And it's not a good place to be at.
Yeah. That realization where you're like for me it was when I first opened up about stuff, or like I first had my uh like I lashed out the first time. I
Well, that's
think
how it happened.
that's yeah, I think I just kind of realized like, oh, that image of myself I put out there, that mask I put out, it's not there anymore.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it humbles you. That's the word. Those 4 years humbled the crap out of me.
Mm,
So I always said, if I ever got better, I'm never gonna let myself feel like that again, or let another person make me feel like. I take things in stride now, and I'm actually grateful that it happened to me. I don't let anything bother me. Okay, the pandemic, it could bother anybody right now because we're all going through it. But like, besides the pandemic, it's, you could say some, "Joy, I don't like you. You make me sick." I'd be like, "That's fine. I'm gonna go have a chocolate chip cookie and I'll forget about it. Like, I don't care." Like, and I'm grateful for that, because I tell people, and I have parents that reach out to me, and they saw that I did the book, and my daughter's 13. They're suffering with their friends, and I let them all know, work on yourself. And if they're your real friends, they'll be there. If they're not, move on.
yeah.
You have your life ahead of you. You can't let an individual make you feel worse, because, like you said, added weight, added pressure, you do not need that when you're
Hmm.
going through your own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard, especially for kids, man, to not let someone
My heart
determine
goes out
things.
to kids right now, especially like not being in school. Like, I don't mean to talk about it, but I'm going for a drive in about a half an hour. A parent reached out to me, a father, said he read my book. I said, "Thank you so much." I thought he was just talking about the book. He's like, "I have a son that tried to hurt himself." And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Wow, is there anything I could do to help?" I'll come there. So I'm going there in about half an hour to pick him up and just have a talk with him. But he's getting bullied from people in his class making terrible videos, and I don't even want to explain the videos to you.
Yeah.
And their response to him was, we only stop doing these videos when you kill yourself. And this is when the world, to me, needs, like, if you're a parent and you're listening, always check up on your kids. Make sure your kid is not that person. It's awful. It's wrong. We're already struggling with this pandemic, and kids, I pray for them, because what I was suffering at 12 with OCD, you throw a pandemic on top of that. When I was 13, I might not be here. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way. I can only imagine wearing a mask in class, going to school on a computer. Like, it, my heart breaks for these kids, like what they have to be going through right now. And the mental health crisis, that's the next pandemic, is the mental health pandemic. And I hate saying that, but it's coming, and it's going to come in full force. And that's why it's very important people like yourself are doing podcasts like this. I have my book out there. I want to try, and I know you're doing the same, just to help as many people. You're not alone. We're here. Let's talk about it. And that's it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. My heart goes out to kids like that because, like you said, like when I was a kid, I'm still fairly young. So, but my introduction to technology was eased. Like Facebook and all these social media platforms
Slowly.
just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they just started when I was going into high school. So
Correct.
like, but if I was in elementary school and like
Ah,
TikTok was a thing,
yeah.
Instagram, I'd be a mess because I was already comparing myself to people on the playground, let alone going
100%.
home and
You
seeing
make
it.
mistakes now as a child, you become a meme. You become a
Oh,
video, and they save it and they share it. And just imagine going home at that age being like, oh my God, they made a fool of me. And the bullying, like, I can't stand bullying, like it. And I'm going today. I don't even know these kids, but I'm going today just to let them know I'm there. I'm not trying to be a police officer. I just, the fact that I know he wants to hurt himself, it breaks my heart, and I'm going there. Just I have to do it, and
yeah.
I want to see a child go through that. Like, it's the most evil thing someone could do, is bully a child or bully somebody. I just don't approve of that, and the parents should be on top of everything. And like, I know now, if my child had a phone, I'm going to monitor it, like, till they're 16, 17. Like, I didn't have a phone growing up. My dad was not going to pay for a phone, but like you said, you were eased into it. So was I. Facebook 2007. Well, what's this? And it's scary what these poor kids have to go through right now.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think one silver lining is like you talk about like the book you made, you talk about the podcast I have. It's like, there's thousands of them out there. And these kids growing up now, they have the access to read these things or listen to these things and kind of, get more information than what we had growing up in terms of mental health. So I'm hoping that, that's used to their advantage. The fact that they have more resources to
Yeah, not
access.
using them,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, technology is great, but sometimes it's not so great. Like, it could really go against you as much as it could help you. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree, man. Um, on that note, when you were a kid and you were going through all these things, and you didn't really know what they were, what would be like? I guess one thing. What would be one thing that if you were able to teleport back and talk to younger you, what would you want to hear? Like, what do you think would be the most effective thing to say?
I think I would comfort myself, and let a young 7-year-old or 13-year-old know this is not your fault that you're going through this, because I really blamed myself.
Yep.
That, search for something that works for you, and you're going to get through this. And you have to keep looking for answers. And then it's easy to say now, but if I heard that at 13 and 7 instead of other things, I think I would have felt a lot better, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. I actually, someone was interviewing me for their show yesterday, and I said the exact same thing. It's not your fault. You got to remind
No.
yourself, because when you're a kid, like for me anyway, when I was a kid, nothing, most things that bother you or most things that are affecting you, they're not in your control. Like you can't
No.
control them. So your brain is trying to find a way to keep you in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
So it was easy to just go, oh well, this is going on because I suck and I'm not worth it.
Yeah, or this exactly. This is going on because I'm an idiot, or this is happening to me because I'm a bad person. You at that age, especially at a young age, you just don't know what's going on. So I
Yeah.
would go back and I would hug myself and be like, "Don't worry, buddy. This is keep fighting, and we're gonna figure this out." You need, especially when you're a kid, you need like assurance that something is gonna get better. And even if you believe it or not, it's good to hear, like you need to hear it. And I really believe that. Like I would go back. It's a great question. What would I say to myself 30 years ago? I'd be like, let's take it one day at a time, but let's look for the right steps.
Yeah, exactly. Those cliches out there about this mental health stuff, like they're there for a reason. Like, you hear them and
100%.
you hear them, you roll your eyes, you're like, whatever. Oof. But eventually you start to hear them enough, and then maybe it might convince you that you are worth it.
100%. Again, I go back to my book. Like it is not a sexy story. So if people know me now, they see me, I'm out, I'm not gonna lie, I'm 40 years old, I party, I do whatever. Okay, obviously now we can't do that, but like they read this book and they're blown away. They're like, that was you? I'm like, yeah, that was. And it makes me look awful, but I don't care. Like
Hmm.
it's very satisfying where the book from chapter 1 to chapter 19, I'm like, when you read this, it's not what I am today, but I'm not ashamed of what I went through. And again, I made this to help people, to give them some hope, and just let them know that my story, hopefully it helps you, but it guides you in the right direction of you getting better and what works for you.
Yeah, no, and I think, like, people in your situation, like you said, you're outgoing, you go to parties, you do these
Yeah,
things. It's important for people to hear that people like yourself, or even like, me out, like with the swim team, with whatever, people who seem to have it going for them, they still go through stuff.
absolutely. Everybody goes through stuff. It's how you deal with it when it, and you could be, I remember thinking when I was really suffering, you could give me $5 million and I wouldn't give a crap that you gave it to me because I'm suffering.
Yep.
So money means nothing. And I sometimes I see people, oh, a celebrity, always going through, oh, what's he have to worry about? He's rich. It doesn't matter how much money or no money. Like if you're suffering, you're suffering,
Yeah.
and you need to get help. So it's so true. You could, the appearance means nothing. It's how you feel on the inside. Like I have people tell me, you look like your life's amazing, and I can't believe you went through something like that. Well, it happened, and that's where I was mentally for those 4 years. And again, I put that story out just to help anybody I can, because I know I would have loved to have read a story when I was suffering, because I find a lot of things with anxiety and depression, they're like tips, but I relate more when I hear somebody's story
Yep.
instead of like breathe in, breathe out. I'm not saying don't do that. Again, I'm not trying to be a doctor, but like I remember breathing in, doing exercise, like this ain't working. I still feel like crap. Like something's not right. So I find hearing someone's story, and it's so important that we end the stigma and people talk about it like me and you are doing right now. It helps so much. You could be saving lives. Every podcast you do could save a life. And that's the way you should go into each one you do. And I know that's why you do this, to help others. And it's amazing that you're doing that. And I did the book just if it helps one person, I'm happy.
Yep. I completely agree, man. So let's talk about that book for a second. When, like, how did it come about? Like, when did you finally decide I'm going to put my life on paper?
It's funny you asked me that. It took me 10 years to actually put it on. I couldn't write it. It made me sick, even though I was better. It was a lot
Hmm.
better. Reliving it bothered me. So I would write it. I would write it like, I don't know, I can't, screw this. So I met this kid. He was a film guy. I do mortgages during the day, and he filmed a video I did with a financial advisor, whatever. We became friends. Like, oh, I wish I had your life. You live downtown. You have all the good. It must be amazing. I said, well, and I told him my 4 year story. He's like, wow, this is a kid, 21 years old.
Hmm.
You should really put that in an audio story or write that down. So what he told me to do is write down point form of what I went through. We sat down, and in 1 hour, I put together an audio story called Push Forward on YouTube. Just put it out there. I let people know this is my story. Didn't think anything of it. Had like 3,000 views, nothing crazy. Didn't think anything of it. I meet this producer, a screenwriter at a patio downtown at Laval. It's a rooftop patio here in Toronto. And we became friends. He's like, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I work at a nightclub at night and I do mortgages." Or, "What do you do?" "I've done movies like The Disaster Artist and Focus with Will Smith." I'm like, "Wow," we became friends. I let him listen to my audio story. I just said, "Listen, tell me what you think. If you know any direction I should go." Then he came back a week later. To my surprise, he's like, "That's one of the most rawest story I've ever heard in my life. I want to make a book and a movie about it." And again, you hear this, you're like, "Yeah, sure." And I'm going to go to space with Neil Armstrong in about 14 minutes. Thank you so much for believing in it. But like, yeah, he introduced me to an author, Ian Thornton, who was amazing. And during the pandemic, we would call each other and work on a chapter a week. And lo and behold, I had a published book by Archway Publishing that came out literally a month ago. And now we're working on a film to go for the book, and that works pretty much side by side with the book. And it's I still feel surreal that this is happening and that my story is out there and I could actually hold it and touch it. And it's very satisfying to me that it's at this point.
That's incredible, man. I was actually just gonna ask, what's it like to actually hold your story in your hand?
You know what? I cried, and I don't mean that like a selfish way. Like when I found out I was going to get published by Archway, it was like my family was so supportive. But when I finally got the first book, and I have it right here, I have tons of them lying around the house, right?
Nice.
But just holding it in my hand, it's like, wow, this is going to be around even when I'm gone, and it's amazing feeling. I can't explain it in words.
I never even thought of it that way. That's a beautiful way to put it. It's gonna be
Yeah,
here when I'm gone. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and that's this is my why. This is, I was a very good athlete. Had scholarships, and so I was here to tell this story. I know that now, and even when you reached out to me, do you want to be on the? Yeah, like let's go, like whatever. Like I don't know you, you don't know me, but I feel like I know you, but like I could easily say, I don't feel comfortable. I'm like, no, I put this story out for a reason. I'll talk to anybody. Put them in front of me. I'm
Yeah.
going to a drive to help those kids. I don't want them suffering. Like I want that to be my new obsession. Like washing my hands, that's gone, but now I want to help people.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful, man. Um, well, looking back on that, like, seeing where you are now, seeing the book in your hands, making that movie, which by the way, if you need a lead actor, I'm right here.
You could be my stunt double, if anything, whenever I fall, for
Let's do
sure.
it. I'll fall
100%.
down. Why not? If I'm in a
Yeah,
movie, yeah, sure.
cushion for your shoulders, whatever you need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. No, but like looking back now, like like at what you've been through, your story, all the low points, and wanting to end your life, doing all of this, is there, looking back now, anything that you would change with your journey?
What? No, I
Yeah.
wouldn't. No. The one thing I would change is not to get down when things aren't going in the right direction, because that's the last thing, is to be hard on yourself when you're already suffering. That's the one thing. Also, I appreciate, and it's funny I could say this now because I'm out of it, and there is an end goal, and I want people to know that with the right work, and like you said, you got to train. It's you want to be a Mr. Olympia, you got to go to the gym. You want your mind to be better, you got to work on your mind. And so there's no, to answer your question, no, I wouldn't change anything for the world. It made me a much better person. I'm more humbled. I'm more relaxed. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Well, Joey, thank you for coming on, man. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for having me. Appreciate it, buddy. We're friends now, so anything you need in the future, you let me know. And hopefully we can meet in person once this 14th wave goes away.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
fingers crossed. Before we let you go, let us know where you can get the book, where people can find you. Where you at?
Oh yeah. My Instagram is Joey T Live, and my book can be found on Amazon, ebook, Barnes and Nobles, archwaypublishing.com. You just type and push forward, the book comes up, and it's just pretty much a story about the struggles I went through.
I love it, man. I'll put all those links down below. And to all my viewers, I will see you guys next time.